Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you join us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded on Saturday, October 11th, 2025, and then posted to all media channels on Sunday, October 12th, 2025. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. All the information I share with you comes real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history, so for entertainment purposes only. Also, if you just remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, all those things really help the channel. If you're new to the channel, we gather questions for these countdown shows from our YouTube channel. Under the post section, a request goes out on Mondays from our office team, and then they gather questions during the whole week. Then my wife goes through them, brings them down to a representative sample. We had well over 1,000 questions this week, and so I want to make the footnote comment that a lot of these questions will actually be rolled over into next week. We'll actually try to address a lot of them even in next week's show. But this week, we actually got a representative sample of about 83 questions we'll go through here on the Countdown Show. So thanks for everybody's wonderful participation. We're happy to engage, happy to help out. And without any further delay, let's get going on today's show. Question 83 in the countdown. Sterling, will our military keep their oath to the Constitution, save our democracy? Yes, actually, as stated several times on this channel, that is one of the big things they're going to be doing and the role they're going to be playing in helping to restore democracy. They're going to maintain an oath to the Constitution and to the people. Absolutely. 82, Nigel Paul Farage, I believe it is a British politician who has been the member and leader of populist reform of the UK since 2024, having previously been its leader from 2019 to 2021. He was the leader of the UK Independence Party from 2006, 2009, and 2010 to 2016. Will the truth come out about what kind of man he is, and the people wake up and stop him? I'm getting he already has leaks or ties to offshore entities like Russia, ties to Russia. Many of the hardcore supporters, like 45 in this country, have blinders on, but looks like a large percentage of the population will kind of understand where the ties are to offshore and some Russian connections there. So yeah. 81. When the information from the Epstein files is released, how much, if at all, will it change the support of 45 from his supporters? I get somewhere nearly half of all the hardcore supporters, believe it or not. Let's put it this way, half of all the entire group of MAGA supporters will then shift away. And it's actually going to be very rapid as all the information, and remember the Epstein files information is going to be coming out from some offshore sources, not all going to be coming out from this country, but when it gets released worldwide, at least half of all the MAGA supporters will then start shifting away from it. You're going to start to see that coming up very shortly. Number 80 in the countdown. Can you update us on the third interstellar atlas? Why are we hearing so many scary stories about this three-eye atlas? So it's a very large interstellar comet. It does have radio frequency devices on it. They were placed there by extraterrestrial groups for monitoring, much the way you monitor anything moving through space. It's not a spaceship. It's an interstellar comet. And talked with my team about this on many occasions. They said if they were moving a spaceship or a craft through space, it would be cloaked, right? So they have cloaking technology. So this is a part of what's called the natural space phenomenon. I believe it's something like 250 to 300 million miles away from Earth. It's not going to come close to Earth. 79, was the government shut down and increased military presence across various states in an attempt to distract the population over the cover-up of the Epstein files? No, actually, in a sense, this was meant to increase. It's actually like a demonstration, of a dictator running roughshod over the economy. So This is actually like a demo. It's more of like a demonstration of, I'm the biggest person on the playground. I'm going to demonstrate what it means like to be a dictator. It's like more of that. It was driven more of that behavior. Certainly, it causes a distraction, but nothing is going to stop the Epstein files from being released. 78. Are the ICE agents the same people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th? It's a smaller percentage. It's approximately 10 to 15% of the ICE agents are similar or people that participated in that January 6th insurrection event. But it's not the majority, but it looks like I'm getting like more like 10 to 15% of them are. 77, there's a small movement on the social media called the Purple Revolution. The concept of the movement is to have the right and left unite against their true foes, the billionaire class. Will this movement gain widespread traction and have an impact on politics moving forward? I do see it. It's like at its infant state, whatever this purple revolution is, it's at infant state. It's going to gain momentum. It's going to be an important factor among many factors, plural. They're going to help move the country back to democracy. But this is actually this is a movement that's really going to be really another important element. It's in its infant state. It's going to take a while for it to grow. And I really see it not getting big momentum until out into next year. It's still going to keep moving ahead, but it'll be an important factor. Yes, it will be successful. It'll move factor and move forward, but be much more prominent as we get out into 2026. 76 will Starmer remain the UK Prime Minister for much longer? Looks like he's going to make it all the way out through into 2026. I'm not seeing like a snap election taking him out, but for some reason, as you get out into like later 2026, I'm getting some correction here. Maybe as you get out late into 2026, there might be a snap election, so he doesn't make it through all the way out to like 2029. So I'm hearing so some kind of an interim thing happening here for him. Doesn't look like it's short term, like right away. Again, it looks like it's out into kind of the latter part of 2026. 75, as you know, narcissism refers to a personality trait characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a lack of empathy, and an excessive need for admiration. Do narcissists in general know the damage they're creating in people around them? Can a true narcissist be cured? I'm not a doctor, but there's many factors that go into narcissism. Some of it is genetically related. Some of it is life experience related. But in general, there's like a lack of empathy. So because there's that lack of empathy as kind of an underarching element of this, no, they don't really understand or appreciate how they're affecting other people. 74, there is so much misogyny, right, coming to light in the US via politics. When will we have a society when toxic masculinity and patriarchy are no longer the norm? And when will respect for everyone, the gender spectrum, be reflected in our institutions as well as our mainstream culture? In reality, this is all part of the 3-decade reset that started in 2020 and goes out to 2050. So the answer to this question is really not going to see a complete balance in this area until out to about the year 2050. 73, will Russ Voigt, the 44th director of the Office of Management Budget since February 2025, be kicked out of his position once the 45 administration is removed from office? Yes, and I'm getting that he'll actually be removed from office in the early part of 2026. 72, Canada Post is on strike again as of late September 2025, following a previous strike in late 2024 due to ongoing negotiations for a new collective agreement between the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, CUPW, and Canada Post Management. Now there is talk of the government shutting down rural post offices, laying off, or giving those close to retirement severance packages. Will this actually take place? I do see that approximately 10% of the workforce is going to be laid off or early retirement. So there is a portion of this workforce that will be laid off. They're showing me roughly about 10%. So yes, that will happen. 71, is there any way that a person can prevent remote viewers from probing without your permission? No, not really, because once you enter the astral travel state, you can actually go anywhere in the universe. Now, people that are highly skilled in remote viewing, I have to tell you, are more benevolent in nature, so they really don't care. They're not doing it to spy on people per se. Usually, it's for a benevolent reason. They're trying to help world governments or something of that nature. What I see is, yeah, I mean, the answer is if you truly can do remote viewing and you're really skilled at it, it's like being a skilled pilot of a Boeing 777. A lot of years of experience and skill in how to pilot the craft, but you're not using it for nefarious purposes. So I hope that helps. 70, a few years ago, my son was leaving his post on a naval ship late at night. He walked outside on the deck, and it was very dark as they were out at sea in the Pacific Ocean with heavy cloud cover. He ran to something shaped like a man, but much larger than him. My son said, "Excuse me," but the being did not respond. My son said the being felt rubbery, and he immediately was very scared. Was this an extraterrestrial? Yes, actually, this was an ET encounter in this case that was protecting the ship. So for some reason, they felt the need to be around that ship. Might have been to minimize weapons or something here, but that it actually was an ET encounter. 69. You and your guides have indicated in the past that prayers can send loving energy. So, can thoughts of hateful energy also be sent to intentionally harm the recipient? In a sense, but remember, when you are sending energy, you're actually operating in what's called the higher realm. The higher realm is based on love. So even if somebody tries to transmit, let's say, harmful energy, has a very minimal effect. In fact, the very fact you're operating in a higher realm mitigates any like harmful energy. So it really becomes something like analogous to a ping pong ball bouncing off a cruise ship. Makes no difference. Yeah, so it can be transmitted, but in the higher realm, it has no real engagement, no real power. 68. What form of self-governance do your guides see us developing in the upcoming multi-decade reset? Will capitalism be replaced by something better? No, capitalism is always going to be part of like self-governance, they're telling me here. So look at self-governance and democracy. Capitalism, people with a lot of wealth trying to, move things in a certain direction. I do see it's going to be much more focused, capitalism, much more focused on humanity, what's good for the population. That is all part of the 3 decade shift. And you're also seeing, we've talked about in the show before, but you're seeing how billionaires are really stepping up right now to help out areas of Medicare and Medicaid and other areas of the nation. So capitalism is always going to be part of kind of a self-governance society, not going away, but the focus of it will shift more towards humanity. 67, do you see a cure for ADHD for children and adults in the next few years? Not a doctor, but I see something coming in terms of a major breakthrough in two areas here. Again, not a doctor. One is like cognitive behavior training, and the other one's like dopamine levels. So, managing or increasing dopamine levels in the brain along with cognitive behavior. AI is going to be an important part of analysis in this area, but looks like that's coming actually over the next 3 years here. Looks like significant progress in understanding ADHD and treating it and kind of getting it to a reasonable level. 66, do you see the billionaire monopoly of traditional and online social media ever being broken up? Here again, no, it looks like it's going to continue, but the focus of the billionaire class is going to start to shift with the enlightenment of society over this 3 decade reset, which is, 2020 to 2050. So it's still going to be a factor, but it'll end up being a more benevolent factor. 65, I've had 4 operations for skin cancer. Will there be an alternate treatment to surgery in the near future? Not a doctor, but I do see new laser treatments and topical genetically engineered, let's call it medications being developed. Here, in a very short time frame, here 3 to 5 years, new laser treatments, low power types of laser treatments, and topical genetically engineered medication. So the answer to this question is about 3 to 5 years, but pretty fast timetable. 64, why is the 45 Regiment allowing Qatar military force base to be constructed on the U.S. Canadian border in Idaho? That's Qatari government, yeah. Is this a threat to Canada or the U.S. long term? This is a quid pro quo arrangement between the 45 administration and the Qatari government. Yes, this is going to be a problem. This is going to lead to some cyber warfare issues and some physical arrangement issues here with this base. I do see the base moving forward, but I see the base being dismantled in a period of about 5 years. So it looks like it'll be built, it'll be established, and it is going to be a cyber warfare threat, interestingly enough. There's something about a connection with that, where that base is going to be at, with the Qatari government's ability to understand cyber warfare better or engage in it. Not good, not a good situation, but I'm getting that within 5 years from now, it'll be built and then it'll be dismantled, okay? 63, can you enlighten us on what hybrid and extraterrestrials eat and feed themselves? Extraterrestrials consume very high protein lab grown foods. So they got a lot of lab grown foods. They've really perfected that across many species. They know exactly what elements their bodies need, require to maintain healthy levels, metabolism levels. Hybrids are part Homo sapiens sapien. They actually eat everything that you and I eat. So hybrids are really not that, in terms of a difference in how they feed themselves, not as different as what you're seeing with extraterrestrial populations. 62, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, was the first to be completely dismantled by the 45 administration. Thousands of individuals, many having dedicated decades of their lives in service to this country, were robbed of their dream jobs and livelihoods. Will USAID ever come back as America's premier development agency? You know, as covered in prior shows, I see that functionally this division, this group, USAID, will come back. It's going to come back with a different name and it's going to be housed under a different governmental department. So it's not going to stand alone like it was. That's kind of a shift. So functionally, like the people that perform those functions will eventually get jobs back. It's going to have a different name and a different division of the government. And I'm getting all this is really going to start happening by the end of 2026 in relationship to this question. 61, will abortion rights and women's bodily autonomy be restored and codified into the Constitution? If you look at being codified, that means in the Constitution, that means collectively bringing together like a lot of rules and laws and principles and putting it in a very formal format. I see this happening, but I don't see it being codified in the U.S. Constitution till long about the year 2032. It will happen. It's going to take that long for the collectiveness of all the laws and regulations and principles, everything that people want to see. It will be codified, but I'm being told it's more like the year 2032. 60. An inventor named Julian Brown has successfully demonstrated a new fuel called plastoline, made from recycled plastic, by fueling a 2023 Dodge Scat Pack in Atlanta on October 4th, 2025. The demonstration showcased the viability of plastoline as a 110 octane alternative fuel, producing clean emissions and transforming plastic waste into high performance energy. Do you see plastoline becoming a widely available option in the future? Not widely available. It looks like it's going to be some sort of an interim solution complementary to others. So it may, if it functions like 5% of the energy requirements of some vehicles, that's something. But it's more short term. Long term, EV, electric vehicle technology will actually be with us with a tremendously improved battery technology. You have battery capacity that'll be, tenfold what it is today at less than one-tenth the size. So actually, battery technology along with charging infrastructure. So this plastoline is going to be kind of almost like a flash in the pan, if you will, on the scene of energy. Not going to be available widespread long term. 59. 45 is threatening to use the Insurrection Act if judges in blue cities don't stop blocking his ICE from taking over blue states. Do you and your team see this happening? I see 45 trying to implement the Insurrection Act. I see him trying to do it. I don't see it playing out, so it doesn't like come into effect. Like he like tries to declare it, it gets fought back by either members of Congress or other cities. It's interesting. It's almost like a tug of war. I'm seeing like you play tug of war, right? So it doesn't look like it actually comes to fruition, but I see it being threatened or they try to do it. It doesn't come to fruition. 58, do you see greater understanding and a cure for JIA, juvenile, is it idiopathic arthritis? You know, I see researchers, not a doctor, but I see researchers already using like CRISPR Cas9 technology, that's CAAS9 technology in laboratory environments right now. So there's already some testing going on that's they're making great progress. So real time, this is a cure that's coming up within a few years because I already see testing being done. Yeah. 57. Curtis Yarvin, one of the primary bloggers against Democrats and an architect of the Project 2025 plan, has said he is making definitive plans to leave the United States. Why is he leaving? He's leaving because he knows the 45 administration is going to fall. The government's going away. And he's actually trying to get out of Dodge, as they say, before the Democrats have full power. So he sees the writing on the wall. Take this as a good sign, but he sees the writing on the wall, and he knows that once the Democrats come back fully in power, it's going to be a real problem for him. 56, hi, Sterling and team. I have the ability to communicate with my guide. My guide said that very soon I would win a large sum of money in the lottery, but I would not live to make my 70th birthday. I am recently retired. My guide has shared information in the past which was similar in nature, but did not take place, but indicated I needed to hear that information at that point in my life. I asked my guide if this was real or something again that I needed to hear for whatever reason. My guide's response was, ask Sterling. My guide has a great sense of humor, but said he was not joking. Okay. First of all, we all have more than one, usually birth angel or guide in our team. So not just one guide. So it's a collective voice. Secondly, I don't see major lottery winning, whoever asked this question, kind of in your life path there. But I do see like tranches of money coming to you. So that's not bad. You're actually going to be taken care of. But we do have multiple guides, and it is important to develop the clairaudient side. I talk about that 5-minute day homework assignment all the time. That's up under our membership, instructional videos, Talking with Heaven. But you do have to develop the clairaudient side, where you have more than one guide, and you have more than one birth angel yourself, as we're asking the question here. But no, you're going to be taken care of. I just get that you're going to be taken care of, but it's not a lottery win coming up. 55. The National Economic Security and Recovery Act, NESARA, is a set of proposed economic reforms for the United States suggested by private citizen Harvey Francis Bernard during the 1990s. Bernard claimed that the proposals, which included replacing income tax with a national sales tax, abolishing compound interest on secured loans, and returning to a bimetallic currency, would result in 0% inflation and a more stable economy. The proposals have never been introduced in Congress. Is the Nasara Jassara actually going to take place? I follow a group, not a real fan, saying that this is coming. No, I don't see this coming into effect, this particular policy program proposal. We're going to have widespread global digital currencies, not to be confused with cryptocurrencies, but there'll be widespread digital currencies. Always going to be some function of income tax, tax on earnings. No, so I don't see that this is actually this financial model will play out. My team's saying it's actually kind of going a whole different direction, the kind of US based and worldwide as we start moving through the next number of years and decades here. 54, hello Sterling. 45 just announced he will be going to the Middle East as the peace talks move forward. Could this be his attempt to flee the country, as your guides have indicated in the past? This will be part of the Middle East escape planning. So understanding kind of what's available for him, how he's going to land, that kind of a thing. Land meaning in a broad sense, where you're going to stay, what are your what do your residences look like, what the arrangements are. But I don't see this as the major departure trip. 53, how is it you receive messages so quickly? You said you don't meditate. What is your secret? It's really a gift from the universe, right? So everybody that comes down to this life that we live here, you ask. There's actually a punch list. You ask for certain things that you want, that you're willing to use as tools. So think of this as a tool. I consider myself a telephone. I refer to myself as a telephone on the other side. Try to be the best telephone I can be. But it's really a gift from the other side. And all of us, whatever you ask for, you can ask for whatever you want before you come down here. But then you are expected to help. Everybody's expected to help when you come down here. So that's really the way I view it, is that, everybody has skills, much the way some individuals come down and they're musical virtuosos or, at a very young age. It's the skills you ask for and then what you intend to do with it. So it's a natural gift from the universe. I think that's the best way to characterize it. 52, I have heard you say you can point a camera to the night sky and ask for extraterrestrials to observe ET ships as blinking lights in the night sky. For example, make them blink twice. I have tried this for myself and pointed towards the moon. What I saw was an almost like a heartbeat in the moon twice. Was this an ET communication? No, I don't see that this particular, like the moon pulsing is what you're referring to, right? Is what you called it? Or blink twice, heartbeat. No, normally the easiest way to acknowledge ETs, they look like stars in the sky. So look at pinpoints of light. But all of a sudden, you'll see one pinpoint of light responding to your communication. And many times after that, they will dart off in the sky at lightning speed. We realize, okay, that's not a spacecraft. Stars don't move that fast. But no, usually if you're seeing, let's say, a pulsing or heartbeat in the moon, that actually is an optical effect you're seeing. But I would encourage who's ever doing this, aim towards the stars. Now this is something that the extraterrestrials have put in place to try to get people comfortable with their arrival. So the very fact you can it's almost like playing a game of Pong, so to speak. Open sky, your mobile phones are sensitive to the infrared light spectrum. You can ask for them to communicate with you, ask them for them to signal you. You don't have to do a chant or anything of that nature. They're very intelligent. They communicate very easily. 51, my adult son hears noises in the house and recently heard indistinguishable conversations. What do you think is going on? In this specific case, without a little more information, very hard to say. But what I am leaning to tell you is it looks more like noise pollution, and noise pollution can come in many areas. Sometimes it's being reflected off of buildings or, believe it or not, through plumbing or something. But this feels like more of a noise pollution effect than any kind of a spiritual event, okay, or spiritual experience. 50. Many of the schools in New York City are now teaching meditation and making the proactive accessible for many individuals, including firefighters and teachers. Will this reduce the violence among young people, and will this program be picked up by other schools across the nation? Yes, it's all part of the progression of the nation, the world towards a much more peaceful coexistence. This is all part of many elements coming together. And I do see meditation. It won't be forced meditation, it'll almost be like an elective class. Like in the old days, you could take electric shop or metal shop or wood shop or whatever it is, or an art class. This will be like if you want to take a meditation class. It's another life skill. I do see it propagating across the nation. 49, will Casey and Ron DeSantis face indictment for the Hope Florida Foundation $10 million scandal? A Tallahassee grand jury has been convened to investigate allegations that $10 million in Medicaid settlement funds were improperly diverted from the foundation for political purposes. Yes, I see actually this indictment's going to go through by about the middle of 2026. So not this year, but it pushes out into next year. 48, is it possible our future will be on issue and not one party? I'm sorry, is it possible our future will be, I guess, based on issues and not what one party wants versus the other? Can we get away from political opposition? How have galactic societies reached and achieved equality? You know, this is all part of the 3 decade reset for humanity. But in terms of extraterrestrial groups, they've evolved through millions of years, and they actually, because of like the Galactic Federation, which is like a United Nations on steroids, that organization itself is more keenly designed to help all extraterrestrial species. So there's an evolution here, but in terms of humanity, this is all part of the 3 decade reset towards people becoming more aware and more aligned with what's good for humanity, not what's just good for you, let's say, and your neighbor. Okay. 47, if you are directing thoughts and feelings to deceitful loved ones, can they hear it? You mentioned they would receive messages like a phone call. Does that pertain to only spoken words? It pertains to everything you experience or think or say in every second of the day. Remember that other dimension, everything happens instantaneously. Actually, so your thoughts or energy, they convey to the other dimension. When you're on the other side, if you think it, it becomes real. If you think, I want to be at that location, you're there instantly. Likewise, here on Earth, if you're sending thoughts or love or anything to any loved ones, they hear it immediately. So, yeah, thoughts are energy and it moves at the speed of light. 46, as so many young people get their news from social media, will artificial intelligence force the media to be impartial or show both sides of the story? I know you said that AI will catch lies, but what if AI is fed incorrect information? So AI, it does have to be trained, but it gets trained off of trillions of pieces of data. So by and large, the truth always surfaces empirically as what I call the lowest common denominator. Meaning when you input trillions of pieces of data, lies aren't the thing that goes to the surface. It's actually the preponderance of the data will show truthfully what's going on. So it actually, artificial intelligence does get trained, or what they call LLMs, right? Large language models. But they empirically, as you get more and more data, the truth becomes evident. So not really a long-term threat. Remember, we're going through an evolution here as AI integrates into society. It'll be ubiquitous in every element of society, just like water is right now or electricity. Following your suggestions, this is 45, by the way. Following your suggestions, I've made what seems to be visual contact with some ETs. I've attempted verbal contact, received telepathic replies. The ET communicates in my native Italian language. While I ask a question in English, I've learned a lot through these exchanges, but how can I be sure this is truly an ET presence, not a deceptive spirit or non-light entity? So if this correlates to like flashing lights in the sky, very possible this is extraterrestrial. It's always good to say a quick protective prayer before you engage with any spiritual activity. A quick protective prayer, like you want to stand in supreme protective white light. You really just don't want anything that is not meant for you or a prankster spirit to be around you. That's the first thing. Quick protective prayer. The other most important thing I have to tell whoever asks this question, it's always trust through validation. So as you get the information, be skeptical, validate it. So if you're told something about an event coming up or something you should do the next day, validate it. But in this case, you said you have visual contact with some ETs several times recently. If this is a flashing light in the sky, it's very possible you are having telepathic communications with an extraterrestrial ship. I'm going to go with that right now based on the question I'm seeing here. 45 in the countdown. When will big food be required to hold higher, better health standards to food such as glyphosate free? By the year 2030, it looks like in the US and many areas around the world, within 5 years here, by 2030 is what I'm getting. 43, what, if anything, will come of the January 6th Jack Smith investigation into 6 congressmen whose phone records were seized? I guess they include Senators Lindsey Graham, Bill Haggerty, Josh Harley, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Lumpish, Marsha Blackburn, is it? I think, yep. And my Congressman, Republican Mike Kelly. I get this is all going to be part of a very strong legal case, a collective case brought against the 45 administration. This is going to actually be more like a foundation for a lot of the cases coming up. And a lot of these you're going to see happening starting out in early 2026. So the information was gathered. It's going to be used for very strong as a foundation for some very strong legal cases. 42, hello, Sterling. I find it hard to watch Caroline Leavitt at her press conferences. The way she covers 45's lies and corruption, as well as the hateful language she uses to describe Democrats. Does she believe what she is telling the public? She's playing a role in the 45 administration in an effort to move certain ideologies forward. That's the basis. So the goal here for her is to move ideologies forward. Okay? 41, will CRISPR technology and gene editing technology be able to reverse physical and mental attributes of people who are born with disabilities like Down syndrome or autism and other birth conditions? Yes. So we've talked about CRISPR, genetic engineering technology many times on the channel, but it's kind of a two-phase approach. If I look at it from kind of a macro standpoint, a lot of genetic engineering around these types of physical conditions. First is understanding what cells, what genes create the effect or create that effect in the human body. Then secondly, then how do you instruct or program cells or in genes at a genetic level to then cross-correct or change? So we're through a couple of phases here with genetic engineering. I feel they're making very good progress over the next number of years, identifying what genes are the triggers that make these things occur. And then the next phase, as we get out more 8 to 10 years out in these conditions, it'll be like, then what could you feed the body that might help mitigate some of the symptoms? Okay, so this is all happening right now, real time. There's a lot of progress getting made over 10 years here. 40, what do you guys see for American farmers, particularly soybean farmers, moving forward? Well, the trade tariffs are going to be a real problem for these farmers. The loss of major markets like China, the massive tariffs involving China right now. So the loss of big markets like China, I do see 10 to 20% of farmers having to pull back. Some may lose their farms. Some may have to go into kind of a financial mode where they try to save things. It looks to me like this is going to be difficult for about 6 months here. 6 months here for soybean farmers. And then they're going to start to be able to dig out of the situation. But big factors here at play. But it looks like 10 to 20% of all the farmers are going to need to develop alternate strategies, whatever it might be, and ways to kind of survive, fend off, because those markets are really not going to be there. A good 6-month period here. 39, I have lots of plants in my house, often feel their presence at a deeper level. I want to know your thoughts on if plants can feel our presence, love, and care we provide them. Do they recognize our frequencies? Well, yeah, all plants respond to our thoughts and energy. There's actually been very good scientific studies done where they've taken very similar groups of plants, put them in a room. They separate them to say two different groups. One group they talk to lovingly, they pet, they say all kinds of nice things, and then they see these plants have very exponential growth cycles. They do very, very well. They take the other group of plants, they say mean things, they yell at them, they don't care, and they have stunted growth. So actually, it's very true that you'll see a lot of this take place, that animals are sentient, trees, all kinds of plants, flowers. They do feel what you say. They actually are living beings. 38. Will there ever be a technology on Earth where we can communicate in any language with our animals and hear their responses back in our language as well? When we cross over, we'll be able to communicate with our pets in the same language. Yes, so pets even now, so on Earth, pets communicate telepathically. So anybody, if you're working to develop a psychic mediumship gift, that same gift, that same what I call the creative mind center channel communicates with everything on the other side and animals, even here on Earth. I know like decades ago when I first started out this work, I thought animal communicators was a very separate form of communication. I came to find out that that same channel that animals use, same one that guides and angels use, loved ones on the other side, same channel. The answer to the other question is here, yes. Within roughly about 5 years, we're going to have an artificial intelligence technology that will be able to read telepathically animals and using different kinds of sensors and then change that into a language that we understand. Yeah, that technology is coming. Interestingly enough, I'll point you to a funny movie, a Disney movie, which is Up. And there's a talking dog in that movie, Doug. But it's almost Doug wears a collar, and everything he says you can hear out of that collar. You can have something very similar to that technology. That's just kind of a funny reference my guides are throwing out there right now. If you take a look at the movie Up and that dog, Doug. 37. During our life review, you have said that we experience how we've made people feel, but what about how we've made animals feel? Well, people that have abused animals experience how they've made animals feel. Yes, you actually experience every single interaction you had with every living being on this planet as part of your life review. That's part of the development of the soul, the engagement with the soul, the rising of the soul, the raising of the energetic level. Yes, you experience everything as all part of your learning experience. Yes. 36. Will the Epstein files be released before 45 dies? Yes, I actually see they're going to get released within this year before the end of 2025. And I always see they're coming from an international source. Doesn't mean domestic sources won't be releasing some files, but I see a tranche of a lot of files being released from offshore sources. 35. Will artificial intelligence be developed to have a sense of smell to help diagnose disease or oncoming seizures, such as some dogs can do now? Yes, new sensor technology is coming the next few years here that will be actually implanted into AI devices. And through that mechanism, that linkage, you'll actually be able to use the same kind of diagnostic features that animals, like certain animals can sense seizures coming on, as we're talking about here. But that same technology will then be adapted into a technology mainframe that'll actually end up being portable in nature. So yeah, it's all coming over the next number of years here. 34, do you see federal workers receiving their back pay when the shutdown is over? 45, his administration are threatening to not pay federal workers. I do see that greater than like 99% of all the federal workers will receive their pay. It looks like for some reason, maybe 1% won't. I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know, there's a timing thing or they didn't file documents on time, something strange there. But like 99% I'm being told will get their back pay. So everybody hang tight. I understand it's a very difficult period. But looks like in the end analysis here, 99% will get paid. 33. Will Prop 50 in California be successful? How will it affect the state and future politics and elections? Yeah, this is the California redistricting proposition by Gavin Newsom. Yes, it's going to pass. It'll be successful. It'll also lay the groundwork for other states to do the same thing. This is now, fighting fire with fire, right? So this is, a lot of the GOP are trying to play games with districting and trying to get additional 5 seats. Yes, so Proposition 50 will be successful. It's going to lay the groundwork. A number of other states can do the same thing. 32, hi Sterling team. Can hybrids marry? Do they have to marry other hybrids? Can they have children? If they don't have to marry other hybrids, can you tell us their spouses, they're hybrids? First off, hybrids are never allowed to disclose they're hybrids. They don't usually marry. They may have relationships. They're down here of a very important purpose, right? To help humanity. So you're not going to see the same level of engagement with hybrids as you see with Homo sapiens sapiens. Okay, but good question. They don't interact in the same way that the functional part of humanity does. 31, are there attachments of negative energies in reality? Can they cause harm to people? So we can always attract negative energies in the spirit realm, just like you can in the 3D world, right? So for example, if you're a drug addict or you're highly depressed or whatnot, like attracts like. Likewise, in the spiritual realm, you can attract negative energy. It doesn't mean it's attached to you, but if you encourage it to be around you all the time, it can stay with you as you raise your vibration. Now, what does that mean? When you raise your vibration, that means you get healthy, you get grounded, you get happier. You focus on the what's here and now and manifesting the future. As you shift your energy, those other energies fall away, right? They don't want to be around you anymore. Like attracts like, you're not like them anymore. There are a very small percentage of what I call prankster spirits on their side. They can physically interact. They can scratch you. These are very angry prankster spirits. They're not common. There are other types of prankster spirits that can throw objects, throw a brick across the room. A lot of times they're not throwing a brick at a person. They're trying to get somebody's attention. I need to make that clear. They're not really throwing bricks at people. They're trying to say, hey, we're here. We're angry you're here. And they're throwing a brick across the room. So there's a small percentage that I say that can maybe have a physical interaction. The others are like attracts like. Okay. 30. Are there any advances coming for neuropathy and or nerve issues that actually fix the problem instead of just making pain and numbness? Yeah, I'm actually getting out a doctor here, but I'm seeing there's actually a class of drugs right now that are being developed. They're going to be very helpful in this area. I've just been told that it's almost like a hot off the press. I'm just getting real time here. Some drugs are here. Now, that's not going to be the panacea for everything, but I'm just hearing right now there's like some breakthroughs happening right now. It might be this week or next week. And then as we go forward over the next 5 years, you've got like genetically engineered medications coming. So yeah, so it looks like this is on a good trajectory, whoever asked this question. 29. About a decade ago, I started to have vivid dreams while awake. It was like I would see things play out before my eyes, and several days later, the scenarios would come true. What was this? Why isn't this happening now in my life? So this is a combination of clairvoyance and precognitive ability. And you kind of shut this down. So it looks like you have these clairs. You can actually redevelop these clairs. Yeah, a lot of times people have clairs accidentally. They don't know it. They start using it, then they go away. It's like if you don't focus on it or don't know what you're doing, they can, these clairs can be mitigated. They kind of fall to the wayside. Whoever asked this question, you can work to develop these gifts again. 28. I'm in my late 60s. From late high school until recently, most of my best friends and family have passed away. I've asked many times for messages from them, but I haven't received any communication. Is it likely that many of them have reincarnated, no longer able to watch or communicate with me? I feel very alone in this world. Wonder why I'm not hearing from any of them. Thankfully, I have a wonderful partner now and a few remaining friends, so I'm not distraught over this. I'm just wondering about why I don't feel any connection with any of my friends and family that have departed this earth. So no, they've actually none of these people have definitely not reincarnated. Typically What I've seen in a large number of circumstances is that individuals only reincarnate into the Earth dimension every 80 to 100 Earth years. So they have not reincarnated, no. But I do see that they've actually, moved on in a sense. Now, they'll communicate with you anytime you want to talk with them. I understand you're not communicating with them now, but that's somehow you lost that sensitivity, that clairaudience side ability. Because I see a lot of people standing around you right now. Wherever I ask this question, there's like a crowd of people saying, "Hey, we're here." It's almost like a small football team saying, "Hey, we're here." So, it sometimes an analogy here is maybe everybody that you knew is standing to your left and you keep looking to your right. Okay. Just like an analogy there. Okay. 27. I have read a great deal about Rh negative blood, which is actually my blood type. It seems to have correlations in physical, emotional, spiritual components to my life. Can you comment on this, please? Rh negative blood is a natural evolution in the blood supply. I know a lot of people used to say years ago, well, Rh negative, it's extraterrestrial. Well, we are all star seeds. Millions of years ago, millions of years, we actually all started out in star systems. So Rh negative is actually part of a natural evolution of humanity, Homo sapiens sapiens. Small percentage, just a natural evolution. 26. After the ETs are revealed, what will happen to our beloved holidays like Easter and Christmas? They come with hope and wonder for so many. They're actually going to enjoy the holidays with a much deeper understanding of the universe and what it means to life after life and going on and living beyond, and there is no death. It's actually going to take on kind of a whole new meaning, a broader understanding of what all that means. 25. Hi, Sterling and team. As our spirit guides are so tuned into us, are they always able to steer us away from dangerous path or just send signs or messages that allow us to divert our direction, provided that we listen to them? Well, first off, we all have birth angels. So birth angels are always there during your whole life path to save your life if it's not your time. However, if you put difficult circumstances on your life path, might be a car accident. There are no accidents, by the way. It might be an event that maybe you get injured, maybe you break a limb. They're not going to stop that if for some reason that's part of a life lesson or something to go through. So here's a good example. Let's say you're an avid mountain biker, you break your leg. Then doctors discover a new way to treat you. Part of your life path was almost to help those doctors discover a new treatment that helps thousands of others. So they won't always stop you from experiencing a life lesson, but if it's not your time to go or exit, your birth angels, not to be confused with your working spiritual guides. We have two types of spiritual entities working with us, but they won't stop that event if it's on your life path. 24. Between reincarnations, do souls learn life lessons? Yes, we actually never stop learning on the universe. Learning is a fundamental portion of the way the universe works. It's always part of the evolution, if you will, and increased level of understanding in the universe. So we never stop the learning process. 23, I'm amazed at the medical breakthroughs your team talks about. Much of the population cannot afford medical care, even insurance. Will the medical systems ever change to a universal care model so we can benefit from this new technology? Universal health care will start to be more prevalent in about a decade, about 10 years. Actually, what we got, 2025, not going to be fully implemented for 20 years. Fully implemented, it's like 2045. But a lot of the medical breakthroughs are going to be available to the population at large, mainly because they're going to lower medical costs. So if you think about insurance companies, it doesn't matter what kind of insurance you have, if they can cut their cost in half or cut them by 90%, because there are certain cures that prevent you from being in a long-term hospital stay, that's good for everybody. So interestingly enough, it's all going to be driven by economics, but the new breakthroughs around, let's say, genetic engineering technology are actually going to help lower healthcare costs. They'll be available to more of the population. 22, in May of 2021, a large triangular object slowly moved over my house, hovered over for seconds, then continued towards the water. I live near a nuclear submarine facility and a naval base. Is what my friend and I witnessed an extraterrestrial or reverse engineered spacecraft? I'm getting in this case, this is a reverse engineered UAP. Actually, if this was an extraterrestrial craft, you probably wouldn't have seen it under those conditions. I'm getting completely, this is like a reverse engineered military craft being tested. 21. Are the ETs who present themselves as Bigfoot on Earth dangerous or hostile? No, unless you threaten them directly. So just don't get in their way. And that doesn't mean accidentally getting in the way. That means actually try to physically harm them, shoot at them or something. So no threat as long as you don't directly threaten them. 20. Why are some things clear to us in life sometimes at a very young age? Why do we often know our favorite number, our favorite color? Why do we bond with certain types of animals or even songs as though those are in a particular way have made us feel good over the period of our lives? Why do certain faces or body types just sort of click? Where does all this come from? So this is all based on your soul's baseline of information coming through many incarnations, right? It could be tens, hundreds, thousands of reincarnations. It creates a baseline, a comfort level. It's part of your soul DNA. It's part of the entire like library of information you're carrying with you. So if you've been around, for example, let's say Egypt for a lot of years, you may like Egyptian hotels or something. Yeah, so it resonates with a baseline of who you are. You bring that soul experience into each life. 19. The Circuit Court Justice Diane Goodstein of South Carolina home was destroyed by fire this past weekend. She had recently ruled against 45 administration in releasing voter registrations here in South Carolina. She was receiving threats. Was this fire caused by the people who threatened her? What I get here is these are lone wolves. So they were spurred on by the events that took place in that courtroom, but I don't get they were directly connected with the people threatening her. It looks like two different groups of people here, but kind of more like lone wolf segment that they got triggered, so to speak. So not a direct relationship there, but still people that got triggered in a violent way against what this justice ruled on. 18. Will there ever be a time when doctors can restore a person's hearing? Yes, here again, well, within 5 to 10 years, but I'm getting there's two different things here. Again, not a doctor, but I'm getting there's like a neurological component, and then there's a physical component within the ears, whether it's the eardrum, ear canal, whatever this is, there's a physical component within 5 years, major like 3D biological printing of devices, even nano level devices that can go and implant in the ear. Then there's neurological things they're going to be doing, both through medication and through implants, nanotechnology implants. Okay. 17, why are so many Republicans willing to lie and look away from the people of this country who are hurting by the actions of this administration? Have they lost their way, or are they deliberately trying to hang on to power, money, and greed? The root causes are racism, greed, and a willingness to rob others of other people's good. A lot of racism, a lot of greed going on here, and just a real consideration for only what's good for them as opposed to what's good for humanity. So it's driving a lot of this. 16. Will 45 throw Taiwan under the bus in negotiations with China over a trade deal? Yes, he will, but it won't have long-term consequences. That means that whatever trade deal interaction is going to be done here will be unwound by summer of next year, 2026. 15, you have described the life review process in the past, that you need to, in one sense or another, make amends to people that have hurt. My question is, how do you make amends if a person's still alive? Does this mean that your life review continues until everyone in your life that you hurt has passed? So I never said a life review has anything to do with making amends. Let me repeat that. Your life review has nothing to do with making amends for other people. Life reviews are all focused on you, your learning, your elevation of your soul. What did you experience? How did you make people feel? So this is a very good question. Fundamentally, it's always about you. It's never about others. So by that same context, it's never about making amends to other people. Believe it or not, that doesn't matter. When you're on the other side, that doesn't matter. 14, is Putin planning on dragging Europe into war so he can bring China into the fight as an ally? I get he's considering this action, but it's not going to come to fruition. So it's like playing with it, talking about it, trying to make noises about it, but it's not actually going to come into reality, and won't be in effect at large in the world on the world stage. No. 13. Why is it that an administration that has repeatedly broken the vow to uphold the Constitution, ignore laws, abuse power, terrorize illegal immigrants, and citizens not be removed? Why are corporations and the GOP so afraid of him? So many individuals have taken favors. They've actually, or this includes individuals, organizations, corporations, taken favors they shouldn't have taken. So this, in effect, allows the 45 regime organization to hold something over their head and gives them leverage. So, this is all being held over the heads of certain corporations, individuals, and then they know who they are. This is going to change as all this comes to light, but that's the mechanism that's in place right now. 21. Hi, Sterling. In recent times, I keep hearing that things are about to change. The veil will be lifted, or there will be mass awakening. Can you please explain what this means, how it will happen, and will we be aware that it's happening or has happened? So when we talk about the veil becoming thin, really what that means is that people become more aware of the other side. What you see, hear, feel, and experience right now in this world, in the 3D world, is less than 1% of the 99% of what's real in the universe, right? It's what's happening on the other side. So people are going to become more aware, just to be a lot more psychic mediums, people that can communicate with their animals telepathically, people that can talk to mom and dad on the other side, people that can talk directly with their guides and angels. That's what the veil. This is a progression. It's not a flash of light that happens and all celebrities awaken, or some people go to 5D, some people are trapped in 3D. It's a progression. And you find more and more people are willing to talk about these topics, to engage in them, to help other people. 11 in the countdown. Is EM a hybrid? No, he is not a hybrid. 10. Do guardian angels or spirit guides get passed on from one family to member to another as they pass? My girlfriend who has abilities told me one of my guardian angels' name was Penelope. My grandmother who passed away a year ago or so also had gifts, always said she was talking to her angel, Penelope. So curious if that's a generational thing or if that person who passed on sends the guardian angel to a loved one. So nearly in all cases, so angels and guides don't have names, first off. So that's important to know. They have a spiritual QR code. You actually acknowledge them, recognize them. They don't have names. No, there's actually an abundance of angels and guides out there, and they really don't get transferred from one family member to another. It's a very unique set of guides and angels that actually participate with us uniquely. They don't get passed on. I do find in many cases individuals like to name their guides and angels. It makes them feel more comfortable. That's fine. I'll give you an example in the same way that humanity calls out like Archangel Michael. It's not Michael. That is a human construct, but it's okay. You can name them, but they don't have names, and they don't get passed on from family member to family member. No. 9. I'd like to know what would be done in the future to better treat trauma victims so they can recover more efficiently and quickly. I do see the use of AI technology to diagnose conditions much faster, treat them much faster, not just diagnostics, but knowing the best course of treatment. So again, not a doctor here, but there's probably a wide spectrum of the types of traumas that people experience. So first off, diagnosing what kind of trauma is it, the level of the trauma, then what's the best course of treatment. But I do see that coming over the next few years here. Remember, AI is going to be such a valuable tool in so many areas that it's actually going to help faster with diagnostics and treatment. 8. I've been having experiences being awakened from sound sleep by my children calling my name. Often I will get out of bed and go to them, only to see they are sleeping soundly. My husband has had these experiences as well. We've come to call them phantom cries. What is this phenomenon? You both have a telepathic gift, and you are actually hearing the telepathic communications of your children during their sleep state. So, this is a gift that both you and your husband can develop, but it's the telepathic communication from your children's dream state to you. The very fact that both you and your husband have it, it's waking you up. You have a very strong telepathic communication for your children, but you can also develop that telepathic gift and use it for other individuals. 7. I wake up immediately with a different song in my head each morning. They are songs I would never listen to and often decades old. I haven't heard any of the songs on the radio for years. I have no reason for them to be stuck in my head. Is this my guides trying to tell me something? Yes, this is the most direct way for angels and guides to communicate with you, for everybody. They'll put very familiar things in front of you. They'll put songs that have a certain phrase or chorus, but the words in the chorus are something very important for you to hear. For example, I've heard people, will hear the Carpenter song, we'll never pass this way again, kind of thing. But that's actually an omen for there's something going on here. There's change coming up, right? So the very specific songs will have meanings. Yes, your guides and angels put those things in front of you to try to help you along. In a funny way, some people can be rather dense, and I mean that in a loving, funny way. Like your guides will be doing everything they can to put a message in front of you. Well, put the song on again in the car. The songs they'll get the message. Yeah. 6. As a government employee who thankfully was not furloughed, but all of my leadership is, how long will this closure last? The morale of the government employees that are here is so low, we all need a break or something good for us. It appears the prevailing members of Congress are going to take like another 2 weeks before this gets resolved. So, but here again, it looks like people are going to get their jobs back, 99% of back pay, but it looks like we got another couple of weeks here. Could be like 2 weeks, something of that nature, for us to all get resolved. I talked about this in a prior show. I kept getting from my team that there would be a stopgap measure. I feel that measure was on the table with everybody, but free will, you can shoot yourself in the foot anytime you like. And free will has those components: speed, scope, and scale. So, and my hat's off to Linda Grindle, the Comanche psychic. She said right away, she said, nope, I think the government's going to close down. So that's wonderful. I'm glad, she was correct. I still now, my team is saying there's like this stopgap measure coming up that cooler heads are going to prevail and something will come into play here over like the next 2 weeks. Okay. So hopefully that helps. 5, what do you see in the near future for trans individuals, drag queens, those who do not always present as their biological sex? Will there be prosecution in the U.S. for these groups? And what is the best course of action for these individuals right now? It's going to be at least another decade before there starts to be real widespread acceptance across all of society. I get it. This is like, voting rights for people. And a lot of these things are part of humanity's growth, but it's going to be a good decade for society to kind of lean in and be really of acceptance, if you will. It's a gradual process. So for right now, it's kind of an ongoing battle, just like for voters' rights, I'm saying here. Stand your ground, stand in your truth. But I don't see a lot of prosecution per se, if this person's asking. I just see a lot of kind of, it's a rough environment. As more and more people learn how to be forgiving and trusting and loving of other people. Remember, extraterrestrials don't have these issues. Through millions of years of evolution, they understand kind of what the soul is all about. They actually understand everybody has a soul, where humanity's still trying to figure that out. Number 4 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling. I feel that I have been particularly well advised by my guides and angels. My entire life, I have felt their presence. I'm so grateful for all their assistance. What is the best way for me to let them know my appreciation and gratitude? You just did. So they understand every thought, every action, every verbal thing that you say. Guides and angels are around you, completely connected with you. Your simple thought, you just instructed them. You just informed them that you're grateful. Number 3, number 2, and number 1 in the countdown. I always take notes before we start these shows. I will read those back to you right now. Number 3, do your ET friends have anything they want to share? We are encouraged by the positive ways we see the world at large as trying to strive for peace. And we support these efforts in every way possible during every second of every day. We are watchful. Number two, what do you see coming up for this week? Continuing peace discussions in the Middle East and subsequent release of the Israeli hostages, driven in large part by the efforts of the Qatari government. New proposals and breakthroughs for reopening the government, but this will take all the way through the following week. Next, no King's Day events and marches scheduled for Saturday, October 18th should be very impactful in light of the current events and government shutdowns and expedite problems for the current 45 administration. New strings of measles outbreaks around the country. New Middle East violence erupts around Iran for some reason. And number one in the countdown, do you have anything your guides want to share? Keep in mind that every day significant progress is being made in the world to bring the truth in all things to light. Look for the positive signals the universe is sending every day to you, and in the smallest ways, you will enrich yourself by learning to look for these signals. On that note, that concludes the show being recorded today on Saturday, the 11th of October, 2025, posted to all media channels on Sunday, October 12th, 2025. If you'd like to join us for live streams that I do, where I answer a plethora of questions on Friday morning Pacific time zone, you're welcome to join our Platinum membership. The join button is on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. On that note, I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I will see you all again very soon.